Hi guys, I hope you all are staying safe and spooky out there, but also trying new things that fulfill your soul. If you are a returning friend, thank you so much for enjoying these stories enough to return and follow me on this spooky journey. If you are a new friend, hi, welcome. We love having new friends join us on this journey. If you have sent in your stories, thank you so much for taking the time to do so. I promise I will eventually get around to reading your guys' scary or spooky stories, whichever you guys have sent in. If any of you have a subject you want covered, feel free to list your ideas in the comment section. Or if you guys have a story that you want told on here, feel free to send them in to the email below or list them in the comments. If you send in a story and want to remain anonymous, I respect your guys' wishes, but just let me know of your wishes when you send in that email. As far as stories go, I am open to covering truly anything. I realize right now I have done many creepy places or even covered some entities, but I am open to truly anything. Whether it was a scary, coinkydink for you, or maybe a let's not meet, or even some scary Home Alone stories. Truly anything scary that has happened to you. If you want it to be read on this channel, feel free to send in what you have. Because as I said, I am really, truly open to anything, no matter if it's a coincidence or if something truly did happen, your encounter happened, that is valid, it is scary enough to be read on here. So, again, I'm open to truly anything. If you send in an email, I ask that you guys leave something in the subject line, since this is my way of trying to organize stories for videos, but also it's a way of verification, if you will. We unfortunately live in a day and time that we can't be, too trusting of others, which is sad because I want to be trusting. But yeah, just leave something in the subject line of the email, please. And as I said, it's just so I know it's not like a harmful email, like a scammer or something to that nature. And I know, and I said in a past video, I know I sound like one of those teachers nagging the class to send in something in the subject line when emailing, but seriously, other than verification, it does help me organize some story ideas. Also, if you have or you hear pages turning, that is because I have my stories written out, as I do have a tendency to stutter and speak obnoxiously fast. So having my thought processes written down helps to keep things flowing smoothly for everyone. Also, when conversing with one another in the comments, it is absolutely okay to disagree or agree, because that is the beauty of being an individual with our own thoughts and our own opinions, and just having that, beauty of being an individual. But remember, no matter what, let's express these opinions and ideas in a respectful manner. And besides, you don't know what people are going through outside, so just be nice in the comment section, please. Also, I want to tell anybody who's new here that posting may be sporadic since I have a full-time position and my days off vary week by week and day by day. So one week I may post on a Monday, the next may be a Wednesday, and then the following may be a Monday. But I will at least try to post once a week. If I can post more, I absolutely will. But the goal for now is just one post per week. Okay, so now that I have successfully rambled on, go ahead and grab your cozy hobbies. Dare I say, maybe even do housework that you have been putting off. But whatever you choose to do, get comfy as we unwind another rather spooky place. And I will also say sorry if I mispronounce anything in advance. I'm just doing this just for fun. I'm not a language or linguistics person. This is all for fun. So if I mispronounce anything, sorry in advance. Alright, so before I tell you guys of our destination, I want to bring attention to the fact that a little of war is brought up along with explosion type things, ultimately leading to death, will be discussed. If any of these are topics you can't listen to, this may not be the video for you, and I completely understand if that's the case. You need to do what you need to do in order to protect yourself and take care of yourself mentally and physically. I may have already other videos posted that you guys can go watch, or if not, stay tuned for more and maybe a future video will be for you. But if you need to leave, I absolutely understand. Okay, so now that I have said that, our destination for today's topic is located in Ukraine. The specific region is the Polisia area, which is surrounded by many trees, adding a forest type vibe to it. And I will get into the significance of the scenery in just a smidge, but just know that it's covered by forest, or there's a good foresty area around it. As of today, it is a vacant area that is considered to be a ghost town. Prior to how it is today, years ago, it was a booming area, as it was home to 100,000 plus people, since the region had covered the towns of Chernobyl and Pripyat. With all of this, you may be questioning why it's a ghost town if it had once been a successful area. Because as said, it covered 2 towns and had 100,000 plus people. It was a booming area. Well, that reason is because the area had to be fled due to radioactive chemicals that had been dispersed to the area. Again, we'll get more into this in just a bit. It will all kind of be like a full circle. So this place had been once a beautiful place to be, given that the nature and the scenery there, it was just beautiful. Given the location though, it was not free of the conflicts in World War II. Remember the wooded area to this region I brought up earlier, literally just seconds ago, saying we'd get into that? Well, when World War II broke out, these woods acted as a safe haven to the locals during that time. When German and Soviet soldiers came through the area, the woods were a safe haven since the locals were able to flee into the woods and hide from the destruction taking place. It kept them out of sight and provided a sense of safety for these locals and for them just to stay here until the conflict had rolled through. And not to mention, right here, like, these locals, they knew the area more than the German and Soviet soldiers. So that also adds to the safe haven, because they generally knew this place inside and out. So they were less likely to get lost in these forests, if that makes sense. So when World War II was over, shortly after, we know that the Cold War began. We go years with the Cold War in full force until the fateful month of April 1986. And that month that came by had affected the Chernobyl area. So what happened was, a Soviet project had been taking place when things just went terribly wrong, and the reactor 4 section in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant had exploded, causing massive amounts of radiation concentration to be expelled to the surrounding area. And I also want to throw this out there, that when investigations were ran, the cause of this terrible disaster had been chalked up to it being untrained, inadequate personnel being in charge of highly explosive and radioactive material. So essentially, these people should have never been playing around with the material that they were. But it's sad nonetheless. So following the aftermath of this terrible mishap, 28 people lost their lives due to sickness caused by the radiation that was leaked into the environment. Like, people were dropping dead like flies. It was that bad. And even so, in just a short amount of time, like within a month, so many deaths that occurred. And shortly after, many people began to develop cancer. And when I did my research, a lot of it was saying cancers like thyroid cancers, to be exact. But there was health concerns that were starting to arise. Even after the initial 28 passed away, more health conditions were starting to come to light. And I want to mention that not all of the cancers that I mentioned had a direct link to the radiation exposure, but a good portion of the health issues and cancers were able to be traced back to the explosion. So, due to the increasing health issues arising after radiation had been released into the atmosphere, exclusion zones were formally established and implemented in May of 1986. So keep in mind, as I just said all of this, like, it is happening so fast. With the mandatory implementation in full force, it left many people who called this area home having to relocate and restart their lives elsewhere. The zones were tiered into 3 levels: the black, red, and blue zones, to be specific. The black zone is an area absolutely restricted to anyone due to the high concentration of radiation in the area. The red zone is still restricted to anyone due to high concentration as well, but the difference is that when levels dissipate, or the radiation levels dissipate, I should say, it will be considered safe enough for people to make the area a home again and come back. And then the blue zone. The blue zone is still considered restricted for certain groups of people as well, but it is relatively safe to live in compared to the black and red zones. The specific groups of people not allowed in the blue zone are kids and pregnant individuals, due to the radiation amount is still high enough to cause harm for the people in these categories. Out of all of this, the only good thing that came from this whole event is that the Red Forest had accrued high radiation concentration, and even though it has high amounts of radiation, it the wildlife actually came back to this area and inhabited again. So let's backtrack. It's not good that radiation was in the forest, but given the fact that radiation had dispersed to the forest, and over time, yes, radiation is still there, it with people not being around and killing off animals and things like that, it actually became a good area to foster wildlife. So it's a booming area to this day of so many different kinds of animal species and kingdoms, and it's only growing again. So despite this, there's still many parts of the region today that are still highly radioactive and probably will be highly radioactive for such a long time. And not to get into a chemistry lecture, but from the knowledge I have, at least, correct me if I'm wrong if any of you guys are into chemistry and all that, but from what I know, different types of radiation have different lengths of half-lives. And the half-lives, the half-lives time length is what makes the radiation linger, and which makes the radiation deadly. Some types of radiation have longer half-lives than others. And I'd say, given the radiation in the specific area, I'm gonna say that it had such a long half-life, considered that a good portion still has radioactive material in the air to this day. And from what I was reading, as said, the radiation will probably be in the atmosphere for such a long time. Like, if we think about that, it happened in 1986, and now we are in 2026, and there's still areas that have highly radioactive material still floating around in the air. So until that area has radiation dissipate, it's not going to be too habitable. But as I said, when it does dissipate, it may become habitable again. I'll also say that tourists are able to book a tour through this ghost town and see the ruins, but even then, the tour length is limited to where people can be going through and what can be accessed for at least safety levels for people in this, because again, of the radiation. It's cool to see things, but let's do so in a healthy manner and not get sick. So now let's get into the paranormal side of things. There is something called the Blackbird of Chernobyl, and local lore has it that weeks prior to the nuclear disaster, natives of the area saw what they described as a black-winged creature with bright red eyes that appeared in the area before and after the 1986 event. It is said this black creature was an omen, as far as, in a way, a type of a foreshadow to the disaster that was about to take place. And in case we don't recall some of the stuff that I have covered in the past, a lot of black creatures show up before a natural disaster occurs. So I just thought it was cool to point out that parallel. But nonetheless, people have reported that. The next thing that has been reported days leading up to the accident was that power plant workers and locals would either have horrible nightmares and or would receive unexplainable phone calls. And these were not nice phone calls or friendly ones either. It wasn't an unexplainable one, be like, hey, just calling to chit chat. No, these were, from what I saw, menacing, evil type, unexplainable calls that people had experienced receiving. After what took place, people have put the puzzle pieces together and said that these happenings were once again a foreshadow as to what was to go down. So even though these phone calls were menacing, maybe it was to warn people of the disaster that was to occur. And then there is a bridge of deaths in the area, which, from my understanding, is a bridge that connects the Pripyat area and the Chernobyl region. So it's like a junction between both. And it's been reported that glowing apparitions may show themselves along this bridge or around the bridge area. And many people believe these apparitions to be the spirits of the ones who lost their lives from the event. I don't know why they choose a bridge to show up at, but as said, a lot of people say that at this bridge of death is where you're likely to come across apparitions of the people who lost their lives that day and days leading the event. A spirit that is known as, or to haunt the grounds, is the spirit of Valerie Kodamuk or Kodamcook. I don't know if I'm pronouncing their name correctly. But either way, he was one of the power plant workers on site that had died the time the reaction took place. And when the disaster had happened, I specifically want to mention that he passed away almost immediately. I would almost say like vaporized in a way kind of thing. But nonetheless, when the building had been exploded and was crumbling down, and the process of the crumbling in on itself, Valerie's body became trapped in the debris. And with this being a high radioactive site, his body had to remain trapped in the rubble, and I think still is. I don't know. But some believe that because of this, his spirit is permanently trapped on that land and haunts it. So there was a specific spirit there. Like I said, I'm not sure if his body is still there, but from doing research, it had said that just given how unsafe it was to retrieve his remains, they had to keep it there. So I don't know if it's since been removed or decomposed or what. So tourists who have visited the area that is at least accessible have reported shadow figures roaming around in abandoned areas like schools, hospitals, and vacant residencies ever since 1986. I also want to mention that tourists and local have also reported unexplainable phenomenons like sounds of crying and screaming that come from deep within the ruins of Reactor 4. And as said, if you're a tourist or local and just visiting, there's only certain amounts of places that they will allow you to access and see. But along these trails, as said, like with the ones that people do have access to, when they come across these vacant houses and hospitals and what used to be homes, they report these eerie findings. And as said, in the area, there's also unexplainable sounds. So, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you liked today's story, and it would also mean the world to me if you follow me along on the spooky journey. If you have stories you want to be read, whether, as said earlier, it be paranormal or other scary occurrences, please feel free to write them in if you wish. Because as said, some people don't believe in the paranormal side of things, and that's absolutely okay. You have your own opinion and your own thought process. But whatever is scary to you is valid, and if you want it to be read on here, you're more than welcome to send it in. And as said, If you want to remain anonymous, just let me know of those wishes and we're good. I will absolutely keep you anonymous. So, with that said, I am curious to see where you guys stand on today's video. Do you feel like it's paranormal? Or do you feel like other factors may play a part in the occurrences, like psychological? I'm not saying that anyone is crazy, but what I mean is, do you feel like some of these occurrences, like these apparitions and unexplainable things that people have said, do you feel like some of these can be chalked up to a psychological factor, like the part where they're going there hoping to see something spooky, so their mind plays games on them and it does some sort of psychological thing where they're seeing it because they were expecting it, kind of thing? Or do you guys, I don't know, like, do you guys have any stories about any places I have talked about, whether it's here or a few past ones? I'm curious. Whatever is on your mind, leave it in the comments down below. But remember, when interacting with one another, that it is done so in a respectful way. Also, don't forget to try new things that fulfill your soul. Keep it legal and non-harmful to yourself and others. But also, just be the best version of yourselves and do good things in this world full of hate and negativity at this time. But until next time, stay safe and stay spooky out there. Bye.